NGOs split on harms from renewable energy projects. As renewable energy development accelerates worldwide, a rift is widening among environmental NGOs over the unintended harms caused by wind, solar, and other projects. While all agree on the urgency of decarbonization, disputes center on how to balance climate targets with biodiversity, community rights, and land use. Rapid deployment of renewables is essential, but not at the expense of wildlife and farmland, said Christine Milne, former Australian Greens leader, in an interview with The Australian. Too often, projects are sited in sensitive areas because it's easier, not because it's smarter. Areas of disagreement. Environmental groups diverge on key issues: biodiversity and habitat loss. NGOs warn of bird and bat deaths near wind farms and habitat fragmentation from large solar projects. Experts have urged a rethink on the hidden environmental costs of renewables, such as land degradation and resource extraction. Land use conflicts. In Puerto Rico, the Sierra Club and other groups sued to block solar farms on fertile agricultural land, citing threats to food security. They argue projects should be prioritized on rooftops, parking lots, and brownfields. Community rights and justice. Local opposition often centers on indigenous rights, scenic landscapes, or farmland preservation. Some NGOs frame objections as essential checks on poorly sited projects, while others caution that such resistance risks delaying critical emissions reductions. Regulatory approaches. Conservation NGOs push for stricter siting rules and cumulative impact assessments, while climate-focused organizations argue that excessive regulation could slow renewable deployment and jeopardize net zero targets. Case studies. Australia, conservationists accuse NGOs of being too lenient on wind and solar projects that damage wilderness areas, highlighting tensions between biodiversity protection and emissions reduction goals, The Australian. Spain, farmers and NGOs in Jaén have resisted large photovoltaic projects that threaten centuries-old olive groves, citing both cultural heritage and land degradation risks. United States, researchers highlight conflicts between renewable build-out and species conservation, urging clearer federal and state guidelines to prevent ad hoc siting decisions. Toward responsible deployment. The emerging consensus among many NGOs is not opposition to renewable energy, but insistence on responsible deployment. That means prioritizing degraded or disturbed lands for projects, establishing no-go zones in high conservation value areas, incorporating community consent and indigenous rights into project planning, strengthening life cycle assessments to account for supply chain and end-of-life impacts. Every energy choice carries trade-offs, said Carlos Padilla, Sierra Club Puerto Rico chapter director, in a May 2025 statement reported by AP News. Our role is to ensure renewable energy doesn't replicate the environmental mistakes of the fossil fuel era. Implications for policy and business governments and developers face growing pressure to align climate goals with biodiversity and social safeguards. Poorly sited projects risk lawsuits, reputational damage, and loss of community trust. By contrast, projects designed with multi-objective planning, balancing emissions cuts, conservation, and local benefits, stand to gain stronger public support and regulatory certainty. The debate signals a shift. Renewables are no longer judged only by their carbon benefits, but also by their broader environmental and social footprint. For NGOs, the challenge is not whether to build, but how and where to build responsibly. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites presented by E+E Leader. For partnership opportunities, reach out to a member of our team.